It's time for another Planet Coaster piece of content. Episode 3 of this playlist. There we are, we're building a station and some more buildings, but I couldn't fit them on that title card, so the shortened version of this episode is Station et al, or a all. I don't know, I've never actually heard that phrase read out loud. Interesting. Anyway, let's talk about the actual content. So in case you couldn't figure it out, we're going to be building a station and some other buildings in this video. I kind of skipped over the actual construction of the monorail. I was about to say monopropellant, and then I changed my mind to saying monorail, and then I decided to change back to monopropellant before I finally stumbled across and saying, no, this isn't Kerbal Space Program, this is Planet Coaster. And for those of you worrying, yes, indeed, this isn't Kerbal Space Program. Do not worry, for we will be making another Kerbal Space Program video for this Saturday. So don't worry. In fact, I have the video... I haven't filmed any of it yet, but I have it planned. I know exactly what I'm going to do. So, look forward to that. But in the meantime, here's this video. But yes, I skipped over the construction of the monorail track just because in the end I ended up changing the entire thing later down the line. So, you guys will enjoy that. And, hello to all 12 of you watching this video. These ones haven't been as successful as my Kerbal Space Program ones, which I did anticipate, but actually, that's the end of that thought process. I was starting this conversation. I was starting this sentence by going out to say thank you for those of you that chose to watch this series. I've always wanted to make something other than Kerbal Space Program content, and this is kind of the first real effort in doing that. I have done the off the hook videos before, but they were, I don't want to say low effort because some of them took an insane amount of work. I mean, my PUBG video and my Half Dead video, for example, took way longer to edit and create than pretty much any of my Kerbal Space Program videos. I'm trying to think of a video in KSP that took longer than the PUBG episode, and I'm struggling. I mean, maybe the later episodes of Junior Attacks, we're talking kind of the final 2 episodes, might have taken a little bit longer. But, I think the PUBG video does have a good case for being the longest video the longest amount of time I spent editing a video. I really should have thought about how I was going to phrase that sentence before I said it, but, no tixie backsies. Like we're going to actually do video editing or anything of high effort in this series, my god. Okay, so what are we doing here? Let's talk about the actual on-screen content for once. We're building a station. I feel like I've already said that at some point in this video, but we're just kind of building the interior of this building. We don't need to spend too long working on the actual interior details because we're not actually going to really see it that often, to be honest. So I tend to just close everything off apart from just the end general pathways, and we can just imagine there being some sort of offices inside. I mean, if I wanted to go, really hardcore into the detail, we could have built some little park offices behind the walls and add some doors to it, but for one thing, that's way more effort than really is, warranted. No one's ever going to see it. But also the fact that it would affect the performance of the park, as in my frame rate. Not by very much. This game does handle itself quite well when it comes to things of high part count, unlike another game that we're all familiar with. But, an increased part count would have an impact on performance, however negligible it would be. So we may as well keep all the stuff that isn't needed, out of sight, out of mind, as I would say. But yeah, this is the foundation layer, like the lower level of the station where we're just building the platform zone. And then above it, on this flat area we're constructing at the moment, we're going to build the actual station building. Although this is a modern station, we've got a modern train there, obviously, with the monorail, I kind of took inspiration from some of the more traditional, kind of old English style train stations that you typically see a steam engine pulling into, so it's going to be nice red brick style, lots of sort of decorative pieces, and the red and white, they look nice together. They just look nice together. It's kind of almost fantasy level in terms of how I feel like if I say the word picturesque, I'm just sort of blowing my own trumpet there, but roll with here. I think this turned out pretty nice, and I'm not ashamed to have a bit of pride in my work. So yeah, I'm taking the same approach I did before, where I work on one wall piece and get all the details I want, and then once I've got a look that I like, I'll then copy the whole thing and then duplicate it around until we've got the full building made. So there we go. We've got that structure there that I'm happy with, so we can paste it around, obviously replacing the window piece with a door for the actual pathway itself, but other than that we can copy and paste it all the way around. This doesn't need to be a particularly tall building because we don't need to keep it more than sort of one level up because we're already quite high off the ground. And really, for the purposes the station needs to serve and the kind of muses I've been using as sort of image references and architectural inspirations, they don't tend to be that tall. So this is a good height. We'll have a central kind of taller bit in the middle. I'm sure that's the correct architectural term there, taller bit. Regardless, I thought the green roof looked quite nice here, just in complement to the red and white. So we're just going to copy it all the way across. I ended up deleting the middle 3 roof pieces of the structure just so we could add a sort of clock tower central piece to it to stop it looking quite so dull, uninteresting sort of thing. So there we go, deleting those middle pieces there, getting rid of the roof parts as well. So rather than, re-add those stone accent pieces to the edges, I thought it'd be easier just to copy the entire wall pieces up and then just delete the window segment and add just a blank piece of brick. And I thought, the clock piece looked nice. Make sure we get it rotated to the right orientation, of course. I thought this ended up looking quite nice. So again, we'll just copy the whole wall piece up there from the lower levels, and then we'll just delete the window section. Well, we will when I get round to it in the video. Before, as we obviously adjusting the clock orientation is very important as well. And there we go. We can just delete that section there and just add some blank wall, and then we'll add some of our own accents using the window pieces. I used sort of non-window pieces before, like the ones with just literal physical holes in the brickwork, rather than these superficial graphics here, just because that's where the guests will be queuing, so we can actually pan down and see inside the building and look at the guests queuing, rather than these windows here, which whilst they look a lot nicer, I will admit, it's it makes everything dark inside because no light gets through them, and you can't actually see through them from the outside. So I don't really like using them too much. That's why a lot of my structures here, well, namely this one and the Grand Emporium structure, use the physical window pieces, as in the ones they designed to be placed over the front of shops. I think they look a lot nicer for doing queues and things. Anyway, I don't know how much of that sounded coherent. I was kind of just rambling. I think we've pretty much finished this half of the at the front of the station, so we'll just add these sort of finishing edges to it to make sure everything's nice and polished, and then we'll go ahead and duplicate it across in a second. But whilst we have this piece selected, we may as well place it on the ends of the other roofs, and then we'll just add the the little accent pieces as well. It's just the little details, I think, that really sort of improve the aesthetics of buildings. But yeah, you just got to be careful. There is a risk you run in Planet Coaster when you start adding loads and loads of pieces to a building. You do run the risk of it looking overbuilt. So, use accents, but try and use them sparingly. And I think I did a good job of not overdoing it on the accents. You might disagree. Like I say, I'm always looking for feedback. Like I say, this is the first time I've really attempted a non-Kerbal Space Program series, so I am still very new to this. I am looking for feedback at all corners. If you think this style of video could do with some changing, or you think my commentary sounds awful, I need to hire someone else to do the commentary, I won't listen to you because my voice is perfect. I don't know why you'd want to ever listen to anyone else, quite frankly. Then leave those suggestions below. But as you can see, we've nearly finished building this section here. Oh, there I am, just I was just staring at the street trying to work out what I'm doing, just screwing my eyes up. We just try to fix the accent pieces because they looked a little bit asymmetrical, and we could do a little bit better than that since this is the outside of the building and people will actually see this. But once we've done that, we can duplicate it across and cover all of the edges on this structure. And we can do the final touches there by getting the roof bits, brilliant, all done. And then when they're done, we can actually just place the roof itself. And then that's pretty much the station core finished. We still have a few things to do. For example, doing some of the platform features and of course just finishing the grey foundation layer. The first 2 levels of this building, which just serve as the thing that holds the station up. But all that's to come. We're just placing the roof for now. Nearly finished placing those accents. It's the little things. It's the little things that make it better. So, but yeah, now we've done all that, we can just place the roof across the rest of the things, and now we're doing the bits that I just mentioned a minute ago. So we're doing the station accents. We can have these nice glass domes. So it's a nice little contrast of the modern fusing with the old. So we've got the old style station building with the modern glass curves, and obviously the modern train itself. And then we're actually going to build some fake TV screens here. I know Now the summer update has rolled around, TV screens are a thing. They weren't when I was making this video, so we were using the geometric shape pieces for now to kind of make a fake TV that would normally show kind of the departure times and everything like that. Not that it really matters anyway, because the peeps won't actually... Are they still called peeps in this game? They were called peeps in RCT3. I just kind of assume they're still called peeps in this game. The guests, we'll go with the blanket term, the guests can't actually see those screens anyway, because they can't physically queue on that platform, because they'll be sitting in the queue line. But, you know, sometimes I like to place a little bit of function over form. No, form over function. Got it second attempt. So, yeah, we ended up with quite a nice sort of top part of this building, and the bottom part ended up looking a bit bland. So I added those trees, or shrubbery, around the edges to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, and we can just, you know, close off those big gaps as well whilst we're at it as well. And then, you know, it still didn't look too great, so I ended up removing that green wall there in favour of adding a little bit more detail, a few more pieces to make it look a little bit less flat and uninspired, I think. So we've added a nice balcony here. The one I went with was because I didn't want to give the impression that it was just a big hollow building underneath the station. I kind of wanted it to look like it was, you know, a part of the building in its own right. So for the sake of, you know, imaginative purposes, this is going to be where like the park offices are, or at least some of the park offices inside the lower level of this station here. So we can have some nice windows, and again with the wall accents, just to add a little bit of depth to the wall and stop it from looking so flat. So we can just... Once we've done that, but we can duplicate it across to save time and effort, and, you know, make sure everything looks consistent as we go along, and get that fence placed there. And yeah, we'll just place that wall there to make sure that window isn't floating randomly. And what we can do now is just delete the wall that we'd placed earlier and just replace it with the design that we've come up with here, because, well, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, it was looking very flat, very uninspired. I feel like this is a definite improvement in the right direction. And of course, it's the little things that make a difference. So we'll just make sure these bits, the accents, what is that actually called? The roof trim, is it? Anyway, whatever it is, I think it looks quite nice, and that's why I chose it. I basically just scroll through the building components menu, trying to find a piece that I think looks nice, and then when I find a piece that looks nice, I add it to the building. Funnily enough, that's the process, guys. That's how I do it. That's how I do it. So, whatever it's called, it's finished now, so we can move on to just adding a few more things around the area. So now that we've built the station next door to the Emporium Raceway station, we can just fill the gap in between them with a flat ride. I ended up going with the chair swing just because I like chair swings. I've always liked them in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and I really like them in Planet Coaster. I was about to say Roller Coaster Tycoon 4, but as if I'd ever play that game. But also in real life, I have lots of fond memories as a child going to fairgrounds in the sunny coasts of Tenby and Falmouth in the UK. Just on holiday with my family, and there'd always be a fairground around the time I was there, and we'd always go to it just for one day. It's very expensive, we can't go more than once. And there was always a chair swing at these fun fairs. And so I'd always go on the chair swing, and they're just fun things to have. And I thought it would be a good business decision to put fun things in this theme park. And what better to guarantee that something's going to be fun than with first-hand experience? I mean, that being said, nowadays I cannot stand them. I just get very, very motion sick on any ride that has a repeating motion. So we're talking pirate ships, you know, the constant back and forth, chair swings, the constant rotating, or, you know, any kind of other ride like that. Basically all flat rides. Roller coasters I have no problem with. I never feel sick on roller coasters, but for some reason just generally flat rides, I mean, there's a few that, you know, I'd probably be fine with. For example, now I've been put on the spot and I can't think of any flat rides. Bumper cars, dodgems. I'm fine with them. But then that's not a repeated motion, so then that's kind of a moot point anyway. Let's just get away from this horrific tangent and talk about what's going on in the video again. Wouldn't that be a good idea? We are here now building the main entrance to the theme park, something that has been sorely lacking, but it didn't really matter too much because the park's not actually open yet. I never like opening the park straight away because I feel like if I was a paying customer, I would feel cheated if I went to a theme park that had nothing there. So I always like to build at least one roller coaster, or at least one big roller coaster in this case. There is the junior ride inside the Emporium, but for all intents and purposes, and we're talking about kind of like headline grabbing roller coasters, or, you know, ones that will attract a more mature crowd, we're kind of at that point now. So we can, before we open the park, I'd like to have some sort of entrance made. So this is it. So when it came to choosing an architectural style for the main entrance to the theme park, I had a few options available to me. The most obvious one would have been building it to the same kind of style as the Grand Emporium, the monorail station, and of course the launched coaster station. You know, that kind of general time period building style. But I was looking around the park and I noticed I've still got that bridge there, and it's a little bit different to everything else at the moment. It's kind of it takes a castle aesthetic, a bit older than the rest of the buildings. So I thought, let's roll with that. We'll build it into the story behind this park. So up until now, the story was that the owners of the park purchased this kind of Victorian lakefront complex that included the Grand Emporium, the monorail station, and the launch coaster station, and they built the theme park around that. But the builders of the Grand Emporium, monorail station, and the launch coaster station, prior to them being the theme park buildings that they are now, they built those buildings on the grounds of an old manor house. The manor house itself being long abandoned and demolished and forgotten about, but there are a few relics remaining. So we have the bridge that went across the lake to the house itself, and then we have the gatehouse building here. So it's kind of an amalgamation of a few different time periods here. So there's the old gatehouse here that's been converted into the theme park entrance that would take guests over the bridge of that lake, and then the Victorian lakeside owners, whoever they are, business moguls, I haven't really thought this deep into the story, to be honest. They then built all the, Victorian era buildings on the lakefront that you can see there in the background. And then after that time period, the theme park owners ultimately bought the park and began construction of all the rides that we've built so far. And in later episodes, the sort of more modern style buildings, to house the various rides and stations that, they didn't already have assets for in the form of, more traditional buildings. That's the general architectural style of this park. So, like I say, we've got the old-timey bridge taking guests over the lake, and we have the old-timey gatehouse. I thought we'd finish this video off, well, I won't spoil the surprise just yet, but we'll build one more old-style building to represent the first generation of this plot of land. Second generation, obviously, the Victorian-style stuff and the Art Deco. I mean, I guess Victorian's not the best term, because I'd say it's more Art Deco-y, so maybe 1920s. Old-fashioned by today's standard, regardless. And then finally, obviously, the modern stuff. But I guess talking about the actual footage again, foreign as a concept that might seem, I think the gatehouse is coming along quite nicely. We've kind of gone for this nice fusion of wood and stone archways with the monopropellant again, monorail track going through it. This was kind of inspired by the way Disneyland has its railway tracks making like a bridge over the entrance to the park. That was kind of an inspiration for this. So, if you're going to copy anyone, may as well copy Disneyland, because they're pretty good at what they do. So I guess I'm just looking at the footage trying to find things to talk about. I mean, I guess these white pillars here, I ended up getting rid of them, but I have to include them in the footage just to provide context as to why they're there when I build the actual stuff I keep, which is this brick wall here. But and then we can just go ahead and delete them. I feel like the content is not that engaging when I'm just talking about just describing what you can see here. So I'm kind of at a loss at what to talk about here. This is actually a problem that I faced with Kerbal Space Program videos, really, because I feel like most of the stuff that's been said about Kerbal Space Program gameplay has already been said by myself or the billion other, it's not that many, video makers of Kerbal Space Program content out there. So I'll sometimes be staring at the screen trying to think of what to say, and it's generally just a variation of me saying, okay, so we did our burn here, we got our orbit to this point, and then we started burning retrograde at X, Y, Z. And I just feel like, does that content, is that starting to get old, is what I'm trying to get at, really? And, is there a better way of delivering Kerbal Space Program content? Or in this very instance, it would be Planet Coaster content. Like, would you guys prefer, because I remember when I was in school, we're talking sort of GCSE A-level age. So for Americans, that's kind of the ages of 16. No, in fact, it's from the ages of 14 to 18. That kind of age. I remember I watched a lot of sort of old school Call of Duty commentators. We're talking people like, C Nanas back when he was, doing the stuff that got him started. Now his channel, not knocking against the guy, but his channel is very different to what he used to be. People like C Nanas, Mr. Phantasmo is probably one of my favorites. Woody's Gamertag, class mass my boy. I used to watch a lot of people like that, and the Call of Duty commentators, they started doing this. They started out by basically saying, here we are playing, I don't know, like team deathmatch on Crash. I think Call of Duty 4 was really the game where it really all took off. Like, here we are playing Crash. We're playing this. This is my noob class or whatever. Like, they would just talk about the gameplay all the time. And then gradually, I think Hutch was the guy that really started it. He would start talking about stuff that wasn't even relevant to the gameplay. He would just sit there and talk, and then just have gameplay over the top. And that's what people seem to like. And so that's what I'm kind of at now. Like, has everything that needs to be said about Kerbal Space Program gameplay, and even Planet Coaster gameplay, to be honest. I know I'm very new to the Planet Coaster gameplay game. How many ways can you say, I placed this building here and used the rotation tools until I got a look that I liked, and then I placed this roller coaster here. So, this is where I'm at. My next few Kerbal Space Program videos have already been sorted out, and I have things I want to talk about there. So, maybe not in the videos coming up, but eventually I think I could see myself. Well, I would like to be able to see myself being able to just talk about more free topics that are just on my mind, or just talking about telling stories. I've got some funny stories, guys. I'm an entertaining person. So maybe that'll be the future of what I do here. I'm not sure. All of that aside, maybe we will talk about the footage for a bit, just to explain what we're doing in this specific instance. I decided to have like a sort of restaurant building. So this is the Mexican restaurant. We've got the toilets. Obviously, it's a Mexican restaurant. We need the toilets. And we've got a drink stand in there. We've got what's it even called? The Mexieni? The Mexican restaurant in Planet Coaster. This is what it is. That's what we're building here. So this video is kind of, we've passed the 20-minute mark now, to be honest. So I don't want to make this video too long. I really don't want to outstay my welcome. If you've made it this far, I applaud you. I don't know how you were able to sit through this, to be honest. But like I said, I don't want to make this episode too long. But I did say earlier when I was building the gatehouse that I would show the third building in the sort of first generation architectural style. From the remnants of the manor house. So maybe I'll just extend this to be, just to include that. So, I mean, the first video in this series was 27 minutes long, and maybe we'll aim for that. We'll aim for that this episode, 27 minutes. I am kind of doing the way I've been recording this commentary is me recording the commentary of a bit of footage in kind of 5-minute bursts, and then once I've done that section, I'll add the next bit of footage, speed it up, cut out all the sort of bits that don't matter, and then just record commentary over that, and keep doing that until I get to an episode length that I like. So I'm now, future Matt, when you get to editing this in a few minutes time, just keep it going. Just keep it going until you get to the construction of that other building. Yes. Okay. Now we've got that bit out of the way. Again, there's not a lot to talk about really, is there? There's just me adding wall pieces and then adding decorative parts until I get a look that I like, which is why I'm trying to say that I'm trying to come up with a better way of presenting these in terms of having more engaging commentary. So if you guys do have any questions about this, do leave them below. I'll try and respond to them in the comment section. But if I don't, either it's because I physically didn't see it, or just didn't have time to get around to reading every single comment, or because I'll answer it in next episode. So if people have questions or just things of that nature, I might do a little Q&A section in the next Planet Coaster video, which is going to be, we have a long time to just ramble. So, okay. So this part in the footage, new commentary recording session. Thank you, past Matt, for reminding me to include this building. Don't worry, I didn't actually just forget. Don't worry. I know you think that little of me, past Matt, but future Matt, he's got this. Or I guess present Matt. What you call like the future, I call the present. So like you're like way behind. So for this building here, I adapted a similar style to before, where you build one section of wall, copy that section, and then duplicate it around to build the rest of the structure. And then we take that structure we built and just duplicate that, and then build the tower up. So yeah, this is a tower on the mountain, in case you hadn't worked that out from watching the video. But specifically, it's a folly, which is a very common thing to find in sort of old-fashioned manor houses and stately homes within the estate, to have a folly building. In In the words of Wikipedia, a folly in architecture is a building constructed primarily for decoration, but suggesting, through its appearance, some other purpose, or of such extravagant appearance that it transcends the range of garden ornaments usually associated with the class of buildings to which it belongs. In other words, it's just a decorative building. But a decorative building that, looks like it's something. So in this, I guess, a guard tower, a watchtower, some sort of cathedral. I mean, this is very, very overbuilt for a folly. Usually they're much more simplistic than this, but, the lord of the manor of these particular grounds was very eccentric, very, very wealthy. It was not within his, it was not beyond his power to build a folly of such extravagance. And so that's what we're doing here. I did tone down the level of decoration and windows, particularly on the lower aspect of it. But I think it turned out pretty nice. So, well, yeah, I think it turned out pretty nice, to be honest. So we can just finish off doing the final roof pieces by, closing off all the gaps. Add a few doors here and there. Maybe we could turn this into some sort of functional thing. Maybe have it serve as a monastery or, some sort of chapel. Either way, I don't really care. It's just that it was built as a folly, as a decorative building back in the day, and for the purposes of this save file, I'm building it as a decorative thing now. It's not having any function. Unlike this building here, I kind of got lazy and wanted another building along the lakefront, but really could not be bothered to build another custom structure, so I added the stock Hats Fantastic building. So, that was that. But this is this. So I'm just about to open the park. The guests are already approaching the entrance, but just before we finally open it, I thought I'd just build a little wall at the entrance building, just because it looked a little bit silly having guests being very obviously able to just walk around the entrance structure. So we built this wall here, and we can close off the edges by just terraforming the land just to kind of make that nice seal and make it flush with the landscape. And I think, to be honest, we've built the station, we've built the guardhouse, we've built the folly. I think there's not really a lot else we need to cover here. So on screen now on the left is the previous episode for this series, and on the right is the next episode. And, if you liked the video, then, I really appreciate the likes, and the subscription is always appreciated. I really don't like, trying to ask people to like and subscribe though, so maybe I shouldn't have said